Sit back, relax, and enjoy as Don Tony gives you news and reviews from AEW, NXT, and indie wrestling too.
Know what's happening in the world of wrestling without the hate and clickbait.
It's Wednesday night, Don-O-Mite.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
You know, there's an old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Are you happy now? For those out there that want to believe, still all these people out there that are trying to convince you things because there is this almost crack addiction to be noticed, to be acknowledged, to have your name printed out, to see it retweeted. My friends, to each and every one of you who always sticks by what we talk about, our gut feelings, getting news, hunches, scoops, however you want to call it, sausage, props to all of you out there. For everyone out there that still insists to believe people like you see on your screen right now, doesn't that name sound familiar? We talked about him a week ago. Stephen Mulhausen, or whatever the fuck his name is. Junior. Last week, this guy posted on social media, and I quote, sources, Mercedes Varnado will be Saraya's partner next week at AEW Dynamite in LA against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. I couldn't announce it or make a major hint due to her still being under contract at WWE until the beginning of 2023. Instead of people trying to find out if what this guy is saying is true, they all run with it. And yesterday, while we were doing Patreon, this scumbag, this dirtbag, if this was 15 years ago, I'd use some other cute words. This motherfucker goes on social media yesterday again. Does he realize you don't get paid based on how many people read your tweets? Sources. WWE has been sold to Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. The company will go back to being private. Unknown if Vince McMahon will return to the head of creative, but is expected by some people. And during Patreon yesterday, we spent 2 hours of trying to shoot down every horrendous report that was based on this. People will never learn, everyone. I think you're getting a crash course on this is gossip. This is what people care about. How many of you out there have seen news sites and podcasters and everything across the board reporting this stuff? Instead of trying to get the answer, they just reported, they run with it. And for 7 fucking days, I've had so many people say to me, DT, you're wrong. Mercedes is going to be there. Reports are saying this. Just look at the New Japan deal. This is not hard. I'm not a genius. I'm not even that smart. If I did, I probably wouldn't be doing this, let's be honest. But, New Japan opened, pun intended, the bank to Mercedes. Her first match is going to be in a couple of weeks, sold out in California. Why would that be upstaged by an unannounced appearance on Dynamite for a women's division that is not pushed as hard as it should in the midst of Game 7 of the Elite versus the Death Triangle? By the way, congratulations to the Elite on becoming your new AEW Trios Tag Team Champions. I think we all expected the victory. Great match tonight, great ladder match. Hangman Page makes his return to the ring after 3 months. What put it to smile on my face today more than anything? I have to admit it. What put the smile on my face today? Look, I know Adam Cole was not talking to me. If anybody goes back to my hotline days, you remember a nut job called Captain Lenny. You may have heard that name before because I know Jim Cornette and Brian Last have talked about him. Captain Lenny is a very famous person, a very odd person. He's the one that used to have a hotline, used his home phone number. If you remember, I Like Woman, remember when he took the bath with his dog, the guy that I called that night when we were in the bar? That's Captain Lenny. You know, some of you out there never heard that call. Maybe we'll share it again next week. My medulla oblongata almost exploded that night, but Captain Lenny used to swear that when The Rock used to climb the top rope, the middle rope, and climb it and look at the crowd and do this, and then he'd look, or even Randy Orton, when he would look at the crowd, Madison Square Garden, Captain Lenny always swore they were looking at him. I'm convinced. No, what are you talking about? They know who I am. They're looking at me. Trust me, I know Adam Cole was not talking to me, but it hit home. Because what you, I, and everyone else have been saying for quite some time is, you know what, look, it would suck. It would suck donkey dick if Adam Cole never returned to the ring. But at this point, we just want him to be healthy. We want him to not have these complications, headaches, you know, the frustration, the depression, you know, of not being able to do what you have wanted to do since you were 9 years old. So to see this man come out today and everybody loving it, and believe me, those are not crazy eyes, everyone. That is reality striking him at that very moment. I'm about to tell the world that I can return to the ring. That was awesome. That was awesome. Welcome back, Adam Cole. Made my night. Yes, I am very, very pissed off about what they didn't do with Powerhouse Hobbs. Just release the fucking guy. Seriously. Just release him. You have him walking the streets of California, going back to his roots. And 3 weeks ago, this was supposed to lead into California. This was supposed to lead into technically his home turf. And they were going to do something big with him. What the fuck happened? What happened? Nothing. Not even Rampage. Not even Rampage is he being out. Now, look, sure, he could show up. I'm holding out hope that he attacks Darby Allin after Darby Allin beats Juice Robinson. And then maybe we'll get a Darby Allin Powerhouse Hobbs feud. I'm fine with that. But we kind of like had this fear that he was going to walk the streets and then suddenly he was going to disappear. He walked down the wrong block. He got lost. Remember that scene from The Naked Gun, Leslie Nielsen, and he's walking the streets at night and he's just talking and he's reminiscing and he's thinking about this, and then next thing you know, you hear like coyotes. That's what happened to Hobbs. Right now, Hobbs is looking around, he sees grass lines, like, where am I? No internet. No cell phone cut. Somebody pick up Hobbs. He's stuck somewhere in Arizona. So, listen, I purposely did not put a synopsis before we went live because tonight I think the two very important topics to talk about obviously was Mercedes not being at AEW tonight, and also what's gone on in the last 24 hours about a WWE sale. Now, Wednesdays are dedicated to everything but WWE, Raw, SmackDown, things like that. But something I said earlier today on social media that I think is very, very, very important about an impending sale with WWE, which is not going to happen overnight. You know, if you just take a step back and you just think about common sense, you'll nail these things. You'll get it right. The Mercedes situation was not hard to figure out. It made no sense. That would have overshadowed everything that happened tonight. Hangman's return, his match with Mox, Bryan Danielson, MJF, the Death Triangle versus the Elite. You know, it would have overshadowed everything. And then what? You know, then they don't push the women's division as hard as you think. People are kind of disappointed, like, wow, you know, Saraya's now here a couple of months. Yeah, her schedule is only going to keep her in the ring about once a month. Got to make those count. And after tonight, it felt like a progression of a storyline. And when everything is said and done, you know, the storyline is going to lead to Sheeta versus Storm, not Saraya. You know, we're not going to see that anytime soon. So The Mercedes stuff was easy to figure out, but again, people insist on believing these people. Now, I want to say one other thing about Mercedes and AEW, and I'll tell you why it could still happen. All right. Now, I'm being just realistic about this. I know that's kind of unsexy and boring, but I'd rather give you the straight up truth, because I think at the end of the day, most of you out there want to feel that you know the truth and the facts. We don't mind a little gossip. We don't mind a little, our juices titillated a little bit, but you can't just run with it like everybody else does. But I want to open up with this very, very generous contribution that Ronnie sent in. And I know you promised this a week ago. You didn't have to do that. And I do appreciate it. But I want to use what you wrote as a segue into my final comments about Mercedes and why it can happen. And this does have to do with the WWE sale. We're going to mix the two together. Ronnie sends a 100 spot, and he says, and I quote, "I promise you a C note if you ended up being right, and you were right again. Why did everyone hype up Mercedes showing up on Dynamite just to be exposed as lying to us?" I think the answer is pretty easy. If you don't create the fake news, then you could blame the fake news on the creator, if you know what I mean. See, people will say, if you notice on what I've been doing for 26 years, there's a lot of reports that never make the shows. If someone asks me a question, they want the truth, I don't mind answering it. Someone super chats it, obviously, you're kind of like buttering me up a little bit. You're making me an offer I can't refuse. Of course, I'll answer it. But a lot of times, the bullshit never hits this channel. When it's a big story, obviously, we have to address it. The reason why you see podcasters with giant thumbnails and titles talking about her debut this Wednesday on Dynamite, when you know it's not true. When you see a lot of news sites not using the LY word, but saying she will be at Dynamite. It's not even a question. And then you remember last week, I said, how are they going to cover it up? How are they going to cover it up now since they announced Toni Storm? You realize it was a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, that we said Toni Storm was going to be a partner. Last week, what did we joke about? Oh, they're going to say is, oh, no. Shida is going to lay out Toni Storm before the match occurs, and somehow Mercedes just happened to be in the building, just happened to have her garb, and she's going to be Saray's. That's what they were falling back on. And what happens if that doesn't happen? The people that originally posted, things fell through. There was some complications with the contract. Maybe travel. The point is, Ronnie, and everyone else tuning in, I hope you all realize this now, because I think you're all smart enough to realize it. A lot of these places, when they see a lie, instead of trying to find the truth, and once they know it's the truth, they just ignore it, they will take that lie and they will turn it into massive news. And they will clickbait you, and they will tease you, and they will lie to you, and they will act as if it is news. But they didn't report the news. They didn't break the story. They're just reporting what someone else says. Look at that guy that started the whole downfall of CM Punk in AEW. What was his name again? That journalist? Remember the one that CM Punk called out and says, you call yourself a journalist, right? You aspire to be a journalist. Why was CM Punk so angry at that report? Anybody in the chat room remember his name? He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. But if you Google his name, he's got a very detailed history with himself, Colt Cabana, and CM Punk. They were friends. He was friends with Colt Cabana. Nick Hausman, thank you. Nick Hausman's a good guy. Everyone, I'm not throwing shade on Nick Hausman, but understand something. The reason why CM Punk went after him is because 7 months earlier, and I know I've told this story before, 7 months earlier, right before that Ring of Honor pay-per-view that Tony Khan was having, that was the early reports that Colt Cabana was forced out of AEW and moved to Ring of Honor at the request of CM Punk. And Nick Hausman did not report that story. He didn't break the story. He wasn't the one that put it out there. But when the media call happened, he used that as dirt to ask Tony Khan, hey, what's about this report that sources are saying, or the reports are saying that Colt Cabana was forced out of AEW, moved to Ring of Honor, and blah, 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 blah. If you don't know the truth and you can't get it from the reporters, and there's nothing to substantiate it, and you didn't contact CM Punk, and you certainly didn't contact Colt Cabana, because if you would have contacted either one of them, they would have, unless they lied to him, they would have told him, no, it's not true. So instead, he takes a report that's unsubstantiated and puts it on a media call. What happens for the next 7 months? Everybody and their mother makes it a giant story that Colt Cabana was forced out of AEW. And then what happens after CM Punk is officially cut ties with AEW? Tony Khan says in passing at the last media scrum, oh, that was not true. No, that was my decision. This and that. You couldn't say that 7 months ago? You let that snowball build into a landslide that CM Punk did this to Colt Cabana. And we're not fucking stupid. We're not stupid. Oh, Chris Jericho has a match with him. Oh, because he hasn't been on TV and we wanted to reintroduce him and he's a former Ring of Honor. What the fuck? What do we say that night? You won't see Colt Cabana again for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. You might see him, sporadically. But what has he done since? Oh, brought him back. That had nothing to do with CM Punk. Come on. These guys are laughing at me. They're laughing at you. They're laughing at everybody out there. That people just buy anything you tell them. So as far as these websites go, when they see fake news, instead of trying to clear it up and ignoring it, they'll use that as the center point of an entire show. And their thinking is, oh, if it's fake news, well, I didn't make the story. I'm just reacting to it. I'm reacting to a story. It's not my fault. I didn't make the fake news. That's what people are doing, Ronnie, and everyone else. And that's why so many people got it wrong with Mercedes. Now, as far as WWE goes, okay, we'll talk about it Saturday. We'll talk about Stephanie on Saturday as well. But what I will say tonight about what's going on with WWE is this, and this is where it ties into AEW, and this is the only reason why I'm bringing it up, because it ties into AEW, and it could tie in with Mercedes as well. For everyone out there that believed for even a second yesterday that WWE was sold to the Saudi Arabia investment fund or whatever it is. Okay. First thing I said yesterday was, show me a financial website. No wrestling news sites. Show me a financial site that's talking about it. Because they're the ones that are reporting to the stockholders, the investors. And that is what you base it on. And nobody was posting anything last night. That was telltale number one. Remember when the WWE stars were stuck at the tarmac in Saudi Arabia, and a lot of websites were saying that they're fearing for their lives, that there's a lot of scares, that they might be held against their will. And what did I say that night? Let's see if CNBC, Fox News, CNN, TMZ, whatever the fuck, let's see if they cover this story. Not one did. But these wrestling news sites are trying to convince you that they're being held against their will. No, these are very highly paid entertainers that were inconvenienced at an airport for a few hours. Oh, boo, fucking who? What about all of you that have been inconvenienced at airports? Any late breaking news about all of you? No. So, last night, all you had to do is think about this. Vince McMahon came back January 6th. Upon his return, they hired J.P. Morgan to basically spearhead the deal, and it's either going to be a full-blown sale of WWE or an M&A. I have been using the term M&A since last Saturday, and I want you to keep that instilled in your brain because it may end up being an M&A, a merger and acquisition. But J.P. Morgan Chase was brought in a few days ago to head everything up. Does anybody in their right mind think a $7 billion company that J.P. Morgan Chase in 2 days, two or 3 days, you think that they did all this stuff, contacted investors, stockholders, contacted sellers, got bids, got it, all in 3 days. All in 3 days. All you had to do is think to yourself, wait a minute, J.P. Morgan Chase was just brought in a week ago. Shit has to be drafted up by lawyers. It has to be approved by the board of directors on both sides. The reason why everybody got it wrong, not everybody last night. Let's be honest. The real wrestling journalists out there, from say what you want about Meltzer, but Meltzer never ran with it. Fightful never ran with it. Even Wade Keller never ran with it. Bill Apter, PW Insight, they didn't run with it. A lot of podcasters didn't run with it either. So give those guys some credit. But here's the thing. Remember the media rights negotiations? And you remember what I said on Saturday, that you're not going to do a deal with Comcast for media rights and then sell to Disney. All right? My point is this. This is going to take months. This is going to take months. It's not a handshake. Everybody online treats WWE like it's an indie promotion with 5 employees. This is a $6 to $7 billion publicly traded company that they have to answer to stockholders, investors, board of directors, and everyone else. While people are trying to clickbait you yesterday saying that, the entire board of directors were against Vince McMahon returning. Yeah, that's nice. And then you realize that was a letter written in December before Vince came back. After Vince came back, the board of directors unanimously voted him in. Sure, 2 people stepped down. We already talked about that. My point is this. People are acting like this stuff could be done in 5 days. This is not eBay. This is not Craigslist. This is not, something that, you bring someone in 3 days later, done deal. It's not hard to figure that out. So that's why last night when this broke while we were doing Patreon, it was ridiculous. It was laughable. So why do we always get it right? You all included as well, and everybody else gets it wrong because they're not interested in being right. They're interested like, holy shit, big story. Let me go on the net. Let me go on Twitter. Let me go on Twitch. Let me go on YouTube. Let me put up a video. Let me get 50,000 views. I'll be famous. I might be. That's what they're concerned about. They don't give a fuck if it's true or not. Because if it ends up not being true, I didn't break the story. I'm just a messenger. Fuck you, Danhausen or Hollhausen. What was this schmuck's name again? That's what's going on. Now, do I think a merger and acquisition or a sale is going to happen? Yes. Yes, and I'm very concerned. I am very concerned if a flat-out sale happens with WWE. Because if you have a $1 trillion company or a company that's worth 10, 20, 100 times more than WWE buys it, and it loses that WWE edge, it loses that aura about WWE, and fans start falling out of favor with WWE, falling out of love, doesn't feel the same. It feels that it's just owned by a different company, and they start losing money, which, yes, can happen. I could see a larger entity just saying, let's just shut it down. Just cut our losses and shut it down. Give WWE some credit. Even through mega tough times, they never sold, never gave in. The thing is, and this is what you got to understand, and this is just straight up facts, is we're in 2023 and the economy is horrendous. It sucks. Me in the insurance world right now, I just had a customer curse me out tonight because last year his property insurance policy was $3,700 and now it's $10,000. And I can't give him with a straight face an explanation why. I can't. Things are going up more than you realize. It's not just eggs doubling in price. There is a lot of horrible shit going on right now. And in the midst of COVID, in the midst of an economy that's very uneasy, that's going to get worse, WWE made $1 billion revenue last year, the largest they ever did. Vince McMahon is approaching 80. Vince McMahon, is probably taking some substances. It's been proven, pretty much that probably hurt his body over the years. I don't think Vince McMahon is going to live 100, even though he's got family genes that have. My point is, Vince knows his days on this earth are numbered. I don't want to see him go anytime soon. I am very grateful. He's a pig. I wouldn't want to be related to him or married to him. But as far as my entertainment, he's provided me with, he's the reason why I'm here doing this stuff. I mean, I fell in love with wrestling as a WWF fan. And the guy, even at the worst times, fought and kept it around. But now, when you see WWE stock at $90 a share, $90 a share. If you followed the internet wrestling community, when Vince stepped down, the stock should have exploded. It only went up $2, $3. When Vince announced his return, people were trying to convince you last week that it's doom and gloom and WWE is dead. Why did the stock go up almost 30%? Why did Vince McMahon make almost $1 billion last week? Why did WWE make over $2 billion last week? Why did the WWE stock go up over $20 a share if it's such doom and gloom? Because it's about investors. It's about the bottom line. And Vince sees his $1 billion revenue. And it ain't going to last. He sees the TV rights deals, and they may last for a few years. But a couple of years from now, Vince McMahon, they may not be around anymore. And I truly believe, I have no idea. None of us have any idea, but I truly believe that Vince McMahon, in his mind, if there was ever a time to sell this company at the highest price you possibly can, now is the time to do it. With the stock at $90 a share, right around 90, with $1 billion in revenue, 2 mega media rights deals coming up with NBC Universal and Fox, this is the time to ink a deal. A year from now, it could be much different. I think if a deal is not done, I think that stock goes down $10, $20 a share. And people will be like, oh my God, it tanked. No, it went back to what it was before. So Vince feels, pardon my John Cena phrase, the time is now. And that's why this is happening. And I am very worried as a wrestling fan. Because if, what I said earlier, a larger company picks up WWE and it starts losing big money. Because when you have a giant company like that, you know, you have the risk of losing a whole lot as well. Now, as far as AEW goes, this is why I wanted to mention that WWE stuff tonight. Here's where AEW ties in with this. If you're a hardcore AEW fan, you should be very excited right now. And I'll tell you why. And even with indies, you should be excited right now. If you're a fan of Impact, you should be excited right now. And I'll tell you why. Without naming names, you know that there is a boatload of wrestlers out there who have been on record saying, you know, I'm WWE lifer. WWE or nothing. I won't work another company unless it's WWE. There's some people that are extremely loyal to Vince McMahon. Brock Lesnar, Steve, no, whatever you wanted to. John Cena, others, they're all very, very loyal, extremely grateful, extremely loyal. If WWE is sold, there is no longer that aspect where one of those wrestlers who always were dedicated to WWE, loyal to WWE, if I ever return to wrestling, it's WWE or nothing. If that company is sold, that relationship is no longer there. They do not have that emotional tie with Vince McMahon, with WWE anymore, whether it's Disney or Comcast, Saudi Arabia. I mean, my God, if you look at some of the reports going on overseas right now, it's not news, but it's blogs. They're accusing Saudi Arabia of making deals with American and UK sports to cover up, you know, shift the attention off of the, you know, the horrible atrocities they treat towards, you know, women and gays and, you know, I have no idea. I don't live there. But my point is that when you see news today that, oh, a lot of wrestlers would walk out if Saudi Arabia buys WWE. Yeah, no shit. All you have to do is every time there's a Saudi Arabia tour of WWE and wrestlers decide they don't want to go, you think they're going to, if they're not going to tour in Saudi Arabia, you think they're going to fucking work for Saudi Arabia? Are you kidding me? That's not news today. That's sausage. But people put, oh, our sources tell us that these people will walk out. No fucking shit. No shit. So why this is exciting for AEW and everywhere else is if WWE is sold to a non-wrestling entity, or it's sold, or a merger and acquisition, and Vince is no longer owner, Vince is no longer a stockholder. Now those wrestlers, they are just working for a company. They're working for a company that they have no emotional history with. Sure, the letters say WWE, but the people behind it are not the people that you feel loyal to. So if the McMahons are out, your veterans, your Hall of Famers, your wrestlers who are becoming larger-than-life stars right in front of our eyes, some wrestlers that could be going to Hollywood, if they want to hit a wrestling ring, now they would consider AEW. They would probably have to take less money if they want to at least work the indies. When people, listen, be careful what you wish for, because in 2001, when WCW went out of business and ECW went out of business, NWA TNA came around in 2002, and we all wanted it to be an alternative to WWE. But at that time, you had Invasion, you had the fantasy of the NWO in WWE, you had fantasy of Goldberg showing up, Ric Flair, some of the young stars of tomorrow. We expected a mega roster, and eventually we got it. No one's going to tell me that 03, 04, 05 sucked in WWE. I mean, that's a fantasy of how many people are in that company. But understand also, with those years as they went by and WWE started to decline and people kept using the M word, monopoly, 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 monopoly. NWA TNA was not a threat, nowhere near it. So if WWE gets sold, I know it's the evil Vince and everything else, but there's a greater risk that, a larger corporation out there, conglomerate, could shut it down. It loses WWE feel, it loses its aura. So, imagine if WWE were to shut down by someone else, cut our losses early. They don't have that 50, 40, 30, 20-year emotional tie to pro wrestling. It's not their lifeblood. It's the bottom line. These other promotions, these wrestlers have to work. Not everybody's going to make it in Hollywood. That's why a lot of times when you see wrestlers released from WWE, they seem to disappear. One of the most legendary examples is the Highlanders. One member of the Highlanders showed up on Impact, and they featured him on the TV, and then they were gone, and you really didn't hear from them ever again. I mean, sometimes as wrestlers, there's not a huge demand for some people. But you have WWE no longer that McMahon, attachment to it. Why wouldn't Becky Lynch go work for Tony Khan if he offered her millions of dollars with a very part-time schedule? Why would Mercedes Moné not consider going to Tony Khan for a little while? Why wouldn't other wrestlers not consider, hey, let me do a little bit of Impact Wrestling. I live in Canada. I might as well do a little work over here. Why wouldn't some wrestlers, say, hey, what? Let me go to Japan. Let me go here. Let me go there. So that is, if you're a non-WWE fan, you should be very excited for it. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, AEW's roster is so bloated. Well, guess what? I guarantee you got a lot of wrestlers on the WWE roster with the possibility that they could go down to AEW a year from now, 2 years from now. Yeah, some of the much lower card guys on AEW, even though you emotionally like them, even though they're popular, you will see them gone quicker than you realize. Not all of them are going to go over to Ring of Honor. So, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. When people talk about the evil Vince and everything, listen, as far as a wrestling fan goes, I think for all of us that are WWE fans, the best scenario is a merger and acquisition. That Vince still has voting power and everything else. Now, when we talk Saturday, we'll get into Stephanie McMahon, and I will remind everyone why Stephanie McMahon may have even more power than Vince McMahon if WWE is not sold or if an M&A is done instead. We'll talk about that on Saturday. Just take Class B shares, and you can get a little bit of a heads up on that. Big Ant, what's up? All right, so we've already done 35 minutes, and we've already done, the stuff about WWE and Mercedes and AEW stuff. So I want to just fly through a few other things, and we will get out of here as quickly as we can. Mandy Rose, Mandy Sachs, whatever you want to call her. She was on Tamron Hall yesterday. We weren't sure if it was going to be for the following week or if it was going to be recorded yesterday, but she ended up appearing. And she talked about her release from WWE, and she was hurt by it. She said she would consider shutting down her fan time page if WWE wanted her to return. She did say that WWE warned her to remove the adult content from her fan time account, and she complied. That's very important, because how many places did those emotional tweets that WWE didn't even give her a chance to remove it? Remember what I said 2 weeks ago? That as much as I'm a supporter of Mandy Rose, and I don't even need to prove myself, the comparisons to early Trish and how hard she's been working, I have defended Mandy Rose. I am a huge Mandy Rose fan. But one thing I've been saying for the last 2 weeks that I will reiterate now is every single person on that WWE roster knows what they are allowed to do and not allowed to do. They know when they are crossing the line. And Medusa, she went on our podcast and she said, period, that Mandy Rose knew damn well that she was crossing the line. Now, I can't show you this. This is a video. I can't show you it. I could show you maybe 2 seconds of it. All right, there you go. That's it. No more. No more. But I wrote this on Patreon the other day. If you get access to if you're of age, by the way, if you get access to the Mandy Rose, Mandy Sachs videos on her fan time, go seek out the green bra and panties video. As I've been saying, 98 to 99% of wrestling fans out there have never viewed the fan time content that got her fired. Period. If you watch that video, you will understand, as much as you don't like WWE, you will understand why she was let go. She knew very well what she was putting out there was crossing the line. So I loved the interview yesterday. She was outside taking pictures, signing autographs, talking to fans. Mandy is very likable, and I do believe Mandy will be back in WWE before 2023 is over. I do believe that. She has worked way too hard. And look, she got $1 million. After taxes, she probably ends up with like $350,000, $400,000. But still, even if she were to close it down now, she made her money. She got it. So she's got that in the bank. So she left WWE for a couple of months. She ended up $1 million richer. How do you complain about something like that? I'm very happy for her that she made the money. But she will definitely return. So if you want to go check it out, that is her on Tamron Hall yesterday. Very, very classy, very respectful, very, very thankful. But one thing that you can't say about her is she is not naive. She knew what she was doing. And she misses it. She misses being in the ring. Unfortunately, we didn't get her, as a surprise in AEW. I would have been fine with that. Some people have said, maybe she has a 60-day no-compete, which is very possible. That could be the reason why. But we did not get Mandy Sachs even tonight on AEW. We got what we were advertised. Don't get mad at AEW today, because AEW gave us exactly what they advertised. Hangman Page over Jon Moxley to open up the show. It was a flat-out brawl. I love the match. A couple little things. This is Tony Khan creative that I don't like. When someone gets injured and the foe tries to expose that former injury, the person no-sells it like Hulk Hogan. Now, I'm not saying that they Hulk up or anything like that. It happened again today. It did happen with Bryan Danielson. It's happened with others. It's happened with CM Punk. But there was a point in the match where Hangman Page was getting his ass kicked. And Moxley hit him with a pile driver. And Hangman Page kicked out at 1. And I understand the mentality behind it, but not even 2 minutes later, Jon Moxley headbutts Hangman Page, and Hangman Page is selling it like, oh my God, maybe he's got another concussion. So I don't like, to me, a pile driver is 10 times more devastating than a headbutt. But to kick out at 1, I could get past it, though, because the match was incredible. Hangman Page hits a lariat, then a buckshot lariat. pins Moxley clean. After the match is over, they're playing up that Moxley got knocked for a loop. Because if you listen closely, when Doc Samson, or whatever his name is, was checking out Moxley looks at him, he's like, what happened? What happened? So, this is basically to sell Hangman Page how, devastating that lariat is. And Moxley gets a little bit back. So next week, Moxley will cut a promo, probably show a lot of respect for Hangman Page. We move on. The Acclaim cut a promo that they claim they're getting a Hollywood star. I think they're not, obviously. Let's see how creative it is. Do they get like one off of Etsy and place it over a star? Oh, I could see it already. Maybe they get one of those fake stars on Etsy that are sized to specifications, and they place it right over Vince McMahon's star. You picture that? I could see that happening. But I like the names that they name drop. Johnny Depp, Alec Baldwin, Roseanne Barr, Donald Trump. All names that we're supposed to, as AEW fans, are supposed to despise. Jungle Boy and Hook over Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. Match was okay. Beyond predictable. We said last week, Lee Moriarty's going to eat the loss. You're not going to have Big Bill lose to Jungle Boy or Hook because of the size difference, and that's exactly what happened. Snare trap to Lee Moriarty, done. Renee Paquette, this is good. Renee Paquette backstage with Danhausen, best friends, and I didn't realize it was him at first, but I dig this shirt, Paul Walter Hauser. He had the guy from The Godfather. That was his name. Oh, shit. Oh, Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool where you come up with a shirt like that. But I got to be honest with you. I have to kiss ass once in a while. That's your wife. No, that's your wife. That's my wife. What's up, Tanya? Hey, my wife, she's awesome, man. She allows me to do this. So we should be very, very grateful. Adam Cole returns, as we said earlier, comes out. If you pay attention to, streaming media, social media, I mean, he's been around playing games, looking good. He hits the ring, and everybody is happy to see him back. Great reaction from the crowd. Very emotional speech. Almost teasing at one point that he may not be able to return to the ring. He's always wanted to be a wrestler since he was 9 years old. Talked about not only the physical battles, but also getting up in the middle of the night, walking and, it just rattles you. You see a career, flash before your eyes. And at one point he was done. But the bad news today was not for him or us. The bad news was for the AEW roster. He is back. So now the question is, what do you do with Adam Cole? Me personally, I'd love to see Adam Cole get the push that CM Punk was getting. I think Adam Cole is strong enough on the mic. Plus, you got a nice little inspirational story behind it. And guess what? I think Adam Cole wants gold. We talked about, remember a long time ago I said CM Punk comes off that he doesn't want the title, and Bryan Danielson comes off like someone that doesn't want the title. CM Punk very recently through Dax Harwood said he didn't want the title. But Tony Khan, he understood why they needed to put the belt on him. I think Adam Cole is one person that wants to carry that title, wants to wear it with pride. I think you put Adam Cole, you give him the spot that CM Punk left exposed. Some people thought, you give Mercedes Moné, that she takes over where CM Punk was. Not wrestling men, but as far as getting new viewers in there. No, it's not just about getting new viewers in there. It's more than that. I think Adam Cole should be that guy. He's just that good in the ring. I know some people talk about the size and everything, but, I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest with you. Honestly, I'd rather him be a little smaller than to be, very heavy. But the bottom line is he is back, and I loved when he addressed everyone that he took notice of everybody that was saying that, he heard people saying, like, even if Adam Cole doesn't return to the ring, we just want him to be happy and healthy. And that's cool, man. That's cool. That promo gave me the same feeling when CM Punk cut the promo that time, where you could even hear a pin drop. When Moxley cut that emotional promo when he came back, there's been a couple of promos in AEW's existence where you just stop and you listen and you don't say a word, you don't make a noise. There's always a schmuck that might say something, but Adam Cole today, that was cool, man. Very, very happy with that. MJF interrupts the introduction of Konosuke, Takashita. I know it's Konosuke, Takeshita. Maybe I will start calling it like that. Maybe I will. But he comes out for his match against Bryan Danielson. MJF interrupts, the introductions. He hits the ring. He starts making fun of Takeshita. And he says, it's funny because when we first saw him, we said, his name is Takashita. Takashita. He's not related to Abul Shita, if you remember, my wrestling creation. Abul Shita. So he's making fun of his name, making fun of he doesn't speak English. Now, the weird thing about it, and yes, most of you know that I don't speak Japan, but after MJF was insulting Takashita gets the mic, and I know I'm not saying it correctly, but I know he got the mic, and he said multiple words, because I think it was for like 5 seconds, like, and we don't know what the fuck he said. And then apparently he says, I said, kiss my ass. It reminds you of Tajiri and, other Japanese wrestlers in the past that don't really speak English. I always thought Kyocero means kiss my ass. All he had to say is, you, Kyocero. Kyocero means kiss my ass in Japanese. See, I know Japanese better than Takashita knows it. Did he say Kyocero? Or did he say, so anyway, MJF cutting a promo on Bryan Danielson. He's cutting a promo on the fans. Oh, you don't think I could last an hour? Why don't you ask your mother, your sister, and your skank girlfriend if I could last an hour? Because as far as MJF is concerned, it's all about pinning shoulders on the mats and banging rats. So Bryan Danielson is about to come out, and we see a few celebrities at ringside. Freddie Prinze Jr. is at ringside. Motherfucker Ken Jeong is at ringside. Anybody knows my feelings about this man? I don't care how red my eyes get. I will never, ever try Excedra. You ever see the commercial that he does for the red eyes? He's got bloodshot eyes. He can't see. He puts eye drops, Excedra. You ever see those commercials? I am not a fan of Ken Jeong. Anybody know my favorite Ken Jeong moment? No, it's not his movies. What were his movies? The Bodyguard, or what the hell was it? I can't remember the movies. But what was The Hangover. Anybody remember? What's your favorite Ken Jeong wrestling moment of all time? I know mine. I have the video in my computer. It's always been saved. Does anybody remember this? Look, John Cena. Anybody remember that night? My friends, even if you're on audio only, listen, he's okay. I'm not celebrating head injuries. Please do not get triggered over this. But as far as a wrestling fan goes, because I hated the guest hosts at the time, this guy guest host Monday Night Raw one time, and he got involved in a match, hit John Cena with some type of a cane. John Cena wants to shake hands with him and picks him up. And for those that do have video that are watching this right now, pay attention to your screen. But shh, be very quiet. I want you to just listen to when he lands on the mat. For everybody at home, just close your eyes and envision this. This is what I always remember about Ken Jeong in WWE. Now watch closely. John Cena has him up in the air, throws him over. Now listen. Oh, even Jerry Lawler. Oh, my God. One more time? Should we show it one more time? One more time. Yeah, let's do it one more time. Oh! Hold that head. I didn't want to see him injured, but I was like, good. That's what happens when non-wrestlers want to take bumps and they don't want to train and they don't want to do this. You know, the guy, if you want to know the truth, that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing my managerial stuff. My neck was in much worse shape than I thought it was. Every time I would take a back bump, my head would go backwards and hit the mat. I got a little sick and tired with the back of my head keep hitting the mat and my fucking ears ringing. That's the God honest truth. You know, I had plenty of painkillers, to numb the pain. So I'd come home, take a painkiller. I'd feel like $1 million. No, my neck was nowhere near as strong as I thought it was. And that's one of the things, if you ever think about becoming a pro wrestler, the neck is extremely crucial in your training, especially when you learn to take back bumps, because every time I took a back bump, my head would whip back. And they say, no, tuck your head. And it didn't matter. I always hit the back of my head. That was the reason. When I got hit with that chair shot that time and I threw up and had the concussion and then doing that as well, that was it. Could not tuck in the neck. That's what did my crappy stuff in. So, all right. So anyway, he makes fun of Ken Jong. I'm mixing it up with Kim Jong-il. So anyway, Bryan Danielson comes out, scares him away. Bryan Danielson and Konosuke Takashita had a match that I got to be totally honest with you. If Tony Khan happens to see this, which I know he doesn't, let me tell you where that match should have been. Here's a little news for any of you out there that might be interested. We got WrestleMania weekend coming up the end of March, beginning of April. Ring of Honor will be in Los Angeles, WrestleMania weekend. It hasn't been broken online yet. I'm sure, a lot of sites will pick up on it because fans posted photos. That's how I got one tonight. Ring of Honor, SuperCard of Honor, will be returning Friday, March 31st in Los Angeles, California. Take note of the start time. It looks like it starts 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday the 31st. Yes, they're going to have a live pay-per-view Friday, March 31st at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you look at the board, you have the Briscoes advertised. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why we didn't see the poster on AEW TV tonight. Briscoes, that's it. But Bryan Danielson versus Konosuke Takashita. That match should be on SuperCard of Honor. Now, look, if you notice, AEW is now starting to push Ring of Honor's Honor Club. It is started, everyone, $9.99 a month. But if you look at their social media and all the pushing for Honor Club, they don't talk about, new TV. They're not even mentioning it. Remember when I told you that January is going to come and go and we're going to have no Ring of Honor tapings for TV? We're almost the second week in January. There's no Ring of Honor TV scheduled anytime soon. So they are pushing this for their library. But if they're going to do SuperCard of Honor WrestleMania weekend, they really should consider having Takashita versus Bryan Danielson. That match tonight was excellent. I know everybody keeps saying that Konosuke is going to be a major star in that company. Like when you realize how many people are ahead of him on the food chain, like I want to see him have major matches, but I don't want to see him lose every time. And with all due respect, this is one of my more likable wrestlers in AEW, but I don't want his wins to be against Brian Cage or Ethan Page or, you know what I mean? Like the lower cards that, do lose matches all the time. That's fine and everything. But you remember what I said? I want to see how many wins Ricky Starks gets over the wrestlers who have the number of losses that you can only count on one hand. I'd like to see that with him once it's time. But that match tonight was banger. Bryan Danielson wins, which was obviously expected with the storyline that he must win every match to get the shot at MJF. Now, next week, he takes on Bandito. Well, we already know the outcome of the match because Bryan Danielson has to win if he's going to face MJF for the championship at the next pay-per-view. But that match is going to go on next week. Juice Robinson calls out Darby Allin for a match on Rampage Friday. Rampage looks pretty good Friday. Anna Jay and Ty Mello versus Willow Nightingale and Ruby Soho. They're doing a street fight because of all the crapola that we've seen with the wrestling matches. This is a problem that AEW has. Let's be totally honest. Almost, except for Thunder Rosa or Serena Deeb or Hikaru Shida, a lot of these women wrestlers that are much lower on the food chain, their most infamous matches involve weapons, blood, thumbtacks, tables, chairs, Singapore canes. And they're doing a street fight Friday at Rampage because that covers up the awful shit that we saw that went down, like with Ty Mello and Ruby Soho. And I root for both of them. And I think Ty will get better as time goes by. But now you do a street fight, and that covers up all the inabilities as far as executing regular wrestling moves. Yes, you're right, Sam. The Redeemer. Miro. Another week gone by, everyone. Nothing. The Redeemer. Nothing. Unbelievable, man. King of the Black Throne will be taking on Eddie Kingston and Ortiz on Friday. The Acclaimed will apparently be at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We got Darby Allin versus Juice Robinson, which is going to be a lot of fun. And, we're going to get, that guy we said earlier. He's going to have the suitcase. He had a suitcase. Did I close the picture? Yeah, fuck it. I closed the picture. Oh, no, I do have the picture right here. There you go. Paul Walter Hauser. He had a briefcase in his hand. He's going to reveal what the briefcase is. I can only imagine what it is. Maybe it's a pair of sunglasses. I don't know. Danhausen's going to be with him. Oh, yeah. Next week on Dynamite, we got Jake Hager versus Ricky Starks. We talked about that last week. When Hager, cheap shot at Ricky Starks, Acme Insta feud. Match will happen. That's where Ricky Starks gets another win next week. So that's on Dynamite next week. And then, as I said, Bryan Danielson versus Bandito next week. Those are the two matches announced. Mixed tag match. No surprises. Again, the bullshit with Mercedes Moné was never happening. It's sad to see what happened the last 7 days. I know you're tired of me calling it out, but you see how horrible it's getting. Let me tell you something. I'm not trying to be dramatic here. But you see, like this dickhead, I wish this guy would possibly get in some legal troubles. Because when you float out there that WWE Sold, you imagine some ignorant, naive, inexperienced stockholder that may have bought a bunch of shares of WWE stock, runs and calls his event and says, sell, sell, sell. No, it's sold. Sell it now. Oh, my God, Saudi Arabia. Sell, sell, beheading, sell, sell. And then he finds out that it's based on some virgin loser on Twitter just trying to get hits and views. There's got to be some legal ramifications from this stuff. And people don't care anymore. I don't know if I should reveal it, man. It's a personal story with me. No, not going to reveal it. But I'll just say it like this. You get addicted to something. It gets to a point where you don't care if people see your addiction. All right? I'll use a different one. When I told the story about my ex-girlfriend 30 years ago, we were in a hotel room and, we got cocaine. First, only time I ever tried it. Never tried it again because I saw what it did to her. She got so addicted that night and was fiending so bad that when I said, no, enough is enough, I'm not buying anymore, and she got mad at me, and I took the rest and I flung it on the floor, and in a dirty hotel room, she's on her knees sniffing the rug like a dog, like looking where she could urinate. She's literally breathing in the rug to try to get all the dust that I put on the floor. And I said, I'll never, ever fucking go near that shit ever again. And I never did. But when you get addicted to something, you don't care if other people see you. You get addicted to something. You keep it quiet. You keep it hush-hush. You don't want anybody to see your downfall. But when it gets to a point where you got to do it, you got to have it, you don't care if people are watching. You just do it. And what's happening online now with a lot of these people is they don't care if they're wrong. They don't care. They'll just, plans changed. They don't care. They just want that instant rush. Oh, my God, I got 2 million fucking views. Oh, my God, I'm being featured in newspapers and websites and major publications. That's what they care about. That's why, and I brought this up the other day, with all due respect, I always liked this guy. I don't want to say who he is, but he did an article not too long ago criticizing women in wrestling that wear too much mascara. And this guy has been writing on wrestling news sites for 20 years. He's never showed a picture of his face. We have no idea what he looks like. For over 20 years, the leader in sports entertainment, for over 20 years, this guy's been online and pretty well respected. But he wrote this article, and, I guess he didn't think that people wouldn't realize we don't even know what the fuck you look like for 20 years. Point is a lot of women in wrestling got very, very upset at this guy. Look at Steve Carey of Ringside News, the biggest douchebag of them all. He's the Don of the dickheads. He's the Don of the douchebags. He's Donnie Douchebag. He is an absolute loser. This guy will write awful things, very perverted things about some women in wrestling, and they call him out. And he sits back and he smokes a cigar about it. Like it's a badge of honor. Even if you get abused, criticized, yelled at, cursed, because something that I've always pointed out, most of these people online that write this shit, that say this shit, that lie about this shit, you will never see them at a wrestling convention. You will never see them live in person anywhere. Most of the time, they won't even show you their face. Because if they show up at a convention eventually, they're going to get slapped, ejected, thrown out, a soda thrown over their head at minimum, embarrassed, berated, yelled at, screamed at. So most of these people that pull this shit, you think this guy is ever going to appear anywhere? But people fall for it, and they don't care if it's true or not. So anyway, main event tonight, Death Triangle lose to the Elite. It was predictable. It was obvious. Yes, they are the EVPs. Yes, this is, more about ego and everything else. And I'm not the biggest fans of the EVPs. I don't like their politics. I don't like how they operate things. I don't like how, they pull their political. I don't like the crumbs that they try to silence noise online when it doesn't go in their favor. But the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, perform at a level where whether you like them or you don't like them, they earn what they get on TV. And yes, they overdramatic, make it overdramatic. They have the NBA on NBC theme song in the background. They make it seem like it's Game 7 of a World Series or the NBA playoffs. They've been hyping it up. As soon as we heard the LeBron reference 3 or 4 weeks ago, there you go. There you go. It's going to be compared to the LeBron comeback tonight. Oh, the last time this place saw Game 7 was 1988. So it's not just them winning the belts. It's supposed to be like landmark, historic, major, unbelievable. And yeah, that strokes ego. But those guys earn those wins. Does the Death Triangle suddenly split up? Yeah, I think so. Remember early on, that Penta and Ray Phoenix, or Phoenix, weren't happy with Pac and with this Hammers. Suddenly, they're like, oh, me like Hammer. First, use Hammer. That's awful. We don't break rules. Yes, we do, but we don't use hammers. And then 2 weeks later, oh, me like hammer. Ooh, feels nice in my hand. Feels like strong penis. Now, since they lost the belts, Pac will probably blame it on somebody, and the split will happen. Now the question is, do the House of Black finally take it to the next level? Can't put that tire company on notice and then beat up AR Fox, with all due respect. I know they're going to, do something with Kingston and Ortiz Friday, but the Death Triangle, they're out of the picture now. We had 7 matches, wasn't as bad as I expected. I mean, they worked their asses off tonight. My God, the fear factor on the ladder, the one-winged angel off the ladder onto the mat, going through tables, it was crazy shit. So, they earned that tonight. It was awesome. But I think the House of Black immediately have to step up, show up next week. Don't give me fucking Top Flight and AR Fox. Don't give me schmuck number 1, 2, and 3. Don't give me the Dark Order. No. They showed up. They should not have brought back the House of Black this soon if they're not going to immediately try to go for the jugular, which is now the Elite. One thing I want to mention, too, Hikaru Shida tonight. As we said earlier, Shida versus Storm is on the horizon. Last week when Saraya picked Tony Storm over Hikaru Shida, you know what? I should have brought this up last week, and no one I'm familiar of have brought it up. I'm going to bring it up now. I guarantee you, I want some of you to go on Twitter and compare it. Do you know the picture that's floating around with Shida from last week when Saraya immediately chose Tony Storm, and she's like, you know the picture I'm talking about from last week when she's in the chair, and she's like, you know what it reminded me of? Oh, you'll love this one. You will love this one. Do you remember the WWF press conference in the early 90s? I don't remember what paper, but I think it might have been WrestleMania, but it was a press conference, and they were going to announce the next opponent, I think, for the WWF Championship. If anybody remembers, I got to look up and see which event it was. But you remember Sid Justice sitting at the table as well? And yeah, I'll probably show my yellow teeth right now. But you remember WrestleMania 8? Thank you, Roderick Howard. They did a press conference, and that schmuck, that fake commissioner, what was that prick's name from Canada? Oh, my God. Not Todd Pettengill. Oh, my God. What was his name? The Canadian guy. Oh, shit. Jack Tunney. Thank you, VJ. Jack Tunney. Jack Tunney's on the mic, and he's doing a press conference, WrestleMania 8, and we have like Hogan there and others. And I think Hogan was announced for the title shot, and Sid Vicious expected his name to be picked. And when he didn't choose Sid Vicious, you look at him, Sid Vicious, when they had the camera, he's like, Hikaru Shida, Sid Vicious, those two moments are identical. I'm telling you, it gave me flashbacks. If you've all have never seen that moment, just search WrestleMania 8 press conference, Sid Vicious. I promise you will laugh your ass off. That's Hikaru Shida. Hikaru Shida was Sid Vicious last week. And Shida shows up at ringside with a Singapore cane. And she's watching the match. She's not doing anything. She's kind of being neutral. Then towards the end of the match, I mean, if you look at it, it's kind of like sad. Saraya, I think, was winded. Britt Baker seemed a little bit confused. They were kind of like throwing kicks at each other to try to throw, everybody's, vision off a little bit, to focus away from them. And Shida throws a Singapore cane in the ring. Now, this wasn't a case where Paul Heyman threw the brass knucks in the ring and the wrong person got them. She threw it in the ring, and it looked very deliberate that she helped Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter win. The only thing that was really stupid about it was the referee's back was turned. The referee was focused on Saraya. And next thing you know, you hear the Singapore cane hit Tony Storm. Whack! I mean, you hear it. It kind of sounded like when my father used to hit me with a strap in the 80s. And the referee don't hear it. The referee's like, get down from the ring. Shh! And he doesn't hear it. He turns around like the Aubrey Edwards reaction. So I thought that was pretty funny, man. You hear the Singapore cane, and the motherfucker acts like he's deaf. You hear nothing. So, Storm and Sheeta, I'm telling you, go seek out that WrestleMania. If you've never seen the Sid Vicious look, that was Sheeta last week. I'm telling you, I would have lost it. I probably would have peed in my bed last week if Sheeta would have done the thing with the teeth. Instead of just acting like confused, like, wait. It's like she's like the hottest chick in like a singles bar. And like the hottest guy walks in the room, he turns around and he like walks past her and he goes and, goes with and starts talking to the 300-pound, 5'2", person with 3 eyes and green teeth and, boogers out of the nose. Yeah, it happened to me back in the day. All right. So, we got a little Jack Tunney feedback. We'll talk a little bit about NXT yesterday. Jinder my balls. He made an appearance. Hey, I teased it earlier in the night. I teased that shit earlier in the night. Nobody wanted to pay attention. That's okay. Richard Slater with the 10 spot. What was the WWF's problem with Jack Tunney? He heard that no one from the WWF went to his funeral. Was there a falling out? Also, who do I think is buying WWE, Saudi, Disney, AEW? I don't know who's buying WWE yet. I don't even know if it's going to be a flat-out sale. My gut feeling is that it will be a sale. And like I said, when we talk Saturday about Stephanie, you'll understand a little bit more why she did step down. It does tie into May of last year, but, her stepping down is more of a sign that there may be a full-blown sale. But, we'll definitely talk about it. But as far as Jack Tunney, he was more of a figurehead in latter years than anything else. I mean, he obviously helped WWF when they would have events, I believe, in Canada. But towards the end, I just think that he just fell out of favor with WWE. And, when he passed, understand too, there wasn't this huge funeral for Jack Tunney. If you look online, when I did This Week in Wrestling History, I remember covering, on an episode when he passed. And I did look up a little bit about his work. And his funeral was very, very small and private. And I also think there was a scheduling as well. I think WWE had an event right around the same time in a totally different area. And Jack Tunney was not very close. I mean, he didn't have that intimate, really deep, personal relationship where he was just very, very close with Vince or anyone else. So that's probably the reason why. It's probably the reasons why. I'll look and see if there's anything else. If I find something, believe me, I don't mind talking about it. I was always intrigued with Jack Tunney. I don't understand why he was, I know it was a running joke after a while, but still, he was awful. He was freaking awful, man. That's just, man. I actually thought Bob Backlund promos from 1983 were more entertaining than him, and that's brutal. And I was a big Bob Backlund fan. Also, thank you for the other 10 spot. Who do I think is going to go buy WWE? Do I think Saudi has purchased them? No, Saudi has not purchased them. No, this is going to take months. Listen, I don't want to get too deep into this today, but understand this. The TV deals with Fox and NBC Universal are going to be up in 2024. That has to be negotiated. You remember when WCW went out of business? Do you remember the Monday Night War documentary series that WWE did? Listen to what Bischoff says. Listen to what DDP and other people say. Once WCW lost TV, they were worth very, very little. When Fusient Media and Eric Bischoff were pursuing the purchase of WCW, the number one influence behind them really pursuing is they had TV. They had Turner. Once TV was gone, it wasn't worth what it was. So this TV rights deals are critical. Nobody's going to pay $7 million. And then, you find out that a TV deal falls through. So this all ties in with each other. That's why, and I said this yesterday on Patreon, I'll say it here now. I'm kind of mad at myself that for the last 6-7 months, we didn't just beat it to death that, look, Vince has to come back. He's got to be the one negotiating these TV deals, these rights deals. He's got to be the one involved. They want to deal with him. I'm a little surprised that we didn't focus on that. but they tie in with each other. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take months. They'll be a front runner. But I'm not a fan of CNBC, but I recommend each and every one of you out there, if you want to pursue the truth, go on CNBC's website and look up the story about the WWE sale being, as far as the rumors. And they talk about JP Morgan, and they talk about how this is going to be presented. There's going to be bids. There's going to be private bids. There's going to be a lot. This is going to take months. This is going to take months. That's why, like I said, the JP Morgan part of the story should have been the first thing that made everybody yesterday say, oh, this is bullshit. You don't hire JP Morgan for 48 hours, 72 hours. So, and I don't believe Saudi Arabia. I think they could invest. Maybe they buy 30% ownership. If Saudi Arabia ends up being part owner, I could see them buying a portion of WWE. Maybe Vince McMahon sells 30% of his stock. I don't know. If I knew, I'd probably be working with one of these financial institutions. But my gut feeling is it's either going to be a flat-out full sale, or somebody's going to buy a portion of WWE. They will have another big investor in that company. And I'm not just talking about somebody who just buys some shares. I'm talking about somebody who could have 30% ownership, maybe 40% ownership. If it's 51%, oof. So we will see. One thing is for sure, anything we talk about here, I do my research first. So whatever we talk about here, that's why I always joke that I'm never wrong. Because if you search, the truth will come. So thank you for that. Theme Parks with Johnny. This is all I got to say about these journalists, SMH. But like you just said, I do give credit to those who didn't jump the gun. It's ridiculous. And what do you think this did the last 24 hours? It inspired a whole bunch of other people to do the same thing. This is just going to get worse, everyone. I mean, people, it's like crack. It's a drug. I used to say heroin. You remember when I used to say, oh, it's like heroin to, like, even when I was doing audio, you never saw me, but you'd hear slaps and be like, yeah, it's like heroin. It's a drug. And it's awful. But the saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. If people still tune in to a lot of those places and follow a lot of those people, they deserve to be swayed and lied to. So, thank you for that. Raffman with the 6th spot. You've spent years exposing these fake news clickbait wrestling journalists, and in 48 hours, they really proved you were right all along. It is what it is. But it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. This guy that I showed you earlier, for him, it's worth it. For him, it's worth it. Understand. See, like, Twitter's different now. Twitter, let me explain something. You'll get a kick out of this. There are some people, I don't want to name names because some still do it, but there are some people that for about 6 months to a year, they would run weekly contests. And it would be like a fight subscription for a pay-per-view or this or this or that. There's some good people out there like Mikey D and Denise. They still run contests for their supporters, and they're cool. But there are others out there that would do it with giveaways. And a lot of times it wasn't even a giveaway. But what they would do is they would do this every week to try to get, retweet if you like this, or like if you choose this. Like, who do you want seen in the face of WrestleMania? Tweet this for this answer, or like this. It wasn't because they wanted to get as much hits on their account, because then when they want to go to get verified, they could go back and say, look, I'm a social media influencer. So at the end of the day, this schmuck that did this, he's succeeded in becoming a social media influencer. The funny thing is, how come this Elon Musk guy, when all this was fake news, in politics, this has been flagged as, incorrect, unsubstantiated fake news. Why wasn't these people shut down almost immediately? I mean, WWE is a publicly traded multi-billion-dollar company. that could shake the stock market. That's why WWE was forced to make a response today, because you don't want to influence that. That guy could go to jail if he would have caused disruption like that. I'm telling you, if some people out there really were bored, they could try to get this guy investigated for doing something like that. Just deleting a tweet, oh, my mistake. That doesn't cut it. So it's going to stay bad. It's going to stay bad. It's going to get worse. What was WWE's response? The rumors were not true. You could go check out a whole bunch of financial sites. They all talk. Ariel Helwani talked about it as well. All right. We've run 80 minutes. Let's start bringing this home a little bit. By the way, yesterday I was on the phone with Misha Montana, the girlfriend of Matt Riddle. We are going to do podcast Forbidden Door probably about 2 weeks. She's got some events coming up, so she is going to be out of town. There is a possibility if she has some free time next week, we might jump on video and do it. It's going to be recorded in advance. And I will tell you this, out of respect to the relationship between her and Matt Riddle, once the show is recorded, he's going to watch it. And if he is cool with everything that we talked about, he gives a seal of approval, then I will release it for all of you. So when we record it, it may take a couple of days before it goes online. But we definitely have some interesting stuff to talk about. We will address some bullshit out there and some stuff that is true in some ways, but very, very stretched and distorted and exaggerated in other ways. So very, very cool chick. I don't like using the term chick, but very, very cool woman. So, all right. So that's that. Here's one other thing. The updated AEW video game. That is the cover. That is the updated cover. Is CM Punk still in the game? That is a very good question, everyone. I don't know the answer. I do know that the game is delayed a little bit for some adjustments. One of those adjustments could be removing CM Punk from the game. Honestly, I think that would be very petty if you remove CM Punk from the game. I think you leave him in there. I can't see CM Punk demanding to be removed from the game. I could think that probably contracts were signed. So, Cody is still in the game. Cody is more business professional, But here's the thing. You'll take notice about the release date. I talked about this last week, but now another week has gone by and nobody's doing it. You see what they're doing, right? Last year, every website ran to report to you that the game was going to be released December 31st, 2022. And if you remember, I came up here and I said, that is just a generic date. And it wouldn't make sense to release the game right after Christmas. If you do it a week or two before Christmas. You don't do it on New Year's Eve. December 31st, 2022 is a placeholder. But yet every website ran to tell you that that's the release date. Right now, on Amazon, Best Buy, and a bunch of other sites, if you go and check out the game, the release date is now December 31st, 2023, a year from now. Have you seen anybody report AEW delayed the game? It's not going to be released for another year. No, because when they ran to report it, they wanted to be the first to break good news. If the game was delayed till a year, that's bad news. They don't want to be the ones to break bad news, especially if they're wrong. If you're wrong, you want to be wrong with good news, not bad news. The fact is, it's not going to be released December 31st. That's just a placeholder. That's the stores basically saying, we don't know when it's going to be released. So we put the last day of the year. This way, if we put February 15th, we don't want our stores getting calls on February 15th. Where's the game? Where's the game? Where's the game? Where's the game? So you do December 31st, even if August comes by and the game is not out yet. You don't know how to read? It says December 31st, stupid. Okay. NXT yesterday. By the way, I know nobody is talking about it. I mentioned it yesterday. I say it again today. Let's hope that Gigi Dolan, she did not injure her knee yesterday, her leg. Yeah, I just used that as an excuse to post this picture, which I think everybody will approve. It's okay. She's the one that posted the picture. But she was holding her leg yesterday. If you watched closely in the Battle Royal, she actually did say to JC Jane, my knee. She said something about her leg, and she was holding it. The ending of that Battle Royal wasn't perfect. I mean, people were going like hundredths of a millisecond to try to like say, no, Gigi Dolan won. Look, I joked last week that a toxic split was coming. Most people didn't pay attention. I teased that Gigi and JC Jane were going to fight each other. And most people didn't pay attention. Yesterday, they both won the Battle Royal. They did a Lex Luger, Bret Hart. They both fell off the side of the ring to the floor at the same time. The reason why they delayed it a little bit with the referees arguing on it is so the producers, one producer has this video, okay, get the moment right before she hits the floor. JC Jane, okay, pause that. All right, producer number 2, get the video ready for where Gigi Dolan right before she hits the floor. Okay, pause that. Look at them side by side. Okay, now we get it on the screen. Press play. And then it's perfectly in sync. That's what they did. So now Roxanne Perez at Vengeance Day will be taking on both JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. WWE is building them to be single stars. We like them as Toxic Attraction, and I wish they would remain as Toxic Attraction, but at some point they got to start focusing on their singles careers. But I enjoyed it, man. I thought the Battle Royal was a lot of fun. I was shocked that Cora Jade got eliminated almost immediately. Cora Jade will now feud with Taya Valkyria. And, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting little twist. Now, another match announced for NXT Vengeance Day is Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller in a steel cage. And the reason why that happened is because yesterday they had rope breaks. I know it didn't come off on TV as good as I guess they thought. Some people were having little flashbacks with Finn Balor and Roman Reigns. But, Grayson Waller falls through the broken rope, gets counted out. Shawn Michaels don't want a match to end like that. He makes it Vengeance Day and makes it a cage so the ropes don't break again. For everyone else at Vengeance Day, we don't give a fuck if the ropes break. Well, when it comes to heavyweight, to the main event, no, you got to fight in a cage. So that's what they're going to do. The rope break, look, it's developmental, it's creative, but you notice that there's too much gap between now and WrestleMania. I think they want Carmelo Hayes to be the heir apparent for the heavyweight title. We're too far away from WrestleMania. So now they eat a couple of more weeks with Grayson Waller still in the mix. After it's Grayson Waller, it might be Dijak or someone else. And then you have pretty much the road to WrestleMania weekend. And that's where I think they start building Carmelo Hayes. So yesterday also, we talked about it Monday night, that Indus was going to turn heel. Now, Veer Mahan was not there. Veer Mahan right now aggravated his injury a little bit, so he was not there. Apparently, this happened not in the last day or two. But Jinder Mahal is there temporarily. Jinder Mahal showed up. Jinder Mahal trying to get through Sangha. Stop being respectful. You got to start doing things. If you want to be respectful and everything, it's not going to get you anywhere. And we joked Monday. Remember when we said Monday that Sangha is going to go up, the women are going to approach him? Oh, I'm very, very respectful. And isn't it? No. You saw, Valentina Feroz. She's like, Sangha. Why? Sangha. Oh, I must do this for family. I must do this for family. So you can be classy. You can be somewhat respectful and be a douchebag. So Jinder Mahal shows up, and him and Sangha beat the balls out of the Creed brothers. One of the Creed brothers gets injured. Later on in the night, we get Jinder Mahal taking on Julius Creed, beats him pretty handedly. Jinder Mahal got a nice pop. I don't mind. This is not a demotion. This is not a demotion. If he's not doing much on the main roster, why not throw him in NXT? I don't get the people that because someone shows up in NXT. Oh, and by the way, for everybody out there that were reporting yesterday that Jinder Mahal made his NXT debut, yeah. Thank you, Pro Wrestling Blog, for that photo. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Wow, Seth Rollins. What's with the smile? I mean, I can't zoom in. My screen is a little messed up right now, but look at his smile up close. Doesn't he look like he's not just smiling? Doesn't it look like he's doing something like this? You ever see someone that smiles like that? All right, smile. Look at it. Look at the picture. Am I wrong? What is that? Seth, come on. You got to explain that. Smile. Oh, if I was a little bit more ugly, that would turn into a GIF file somewhere. So, Charlie Dempsey over Hank Walker. Notice how Hank doesn't take the shirt off anymore. Thank God. I don't know what happened with the stomach. I'm not interested. I don't even want to look it up. But, like I said, that gap in the stomach is not aesthetic. It's not even funny. You ever see the game show The Price is Right? You ever see those giant plinkos? Do you remember when Abdullah the Butcher used to take quarters and he could shove it in his head? He did a shoot interview. He took a quarter and he shoved it in his head. I think if you gave Hank Walker one of those plinkos from The Price is Right, he could stick it into his stomach. Hey, look, I'm talented. I don't know. I'm just not a fan. But I don't mind him keeping the shirt on. But Charlie Dempsey gets the win. Charlie Dempsey will now go at it with Drew Gulak a little bit. William Regal's son. Love the look. You can see. It's like William Regal meets young Kenny Omega. And Gallus ends up becoming the number one contenders for the tag team championships. We had some stupidity early on. Pretty Deadly. They were only team announced, so we had no idea who the other teams were going to be. And Pretty Deadly trying to make it an easy night. The first team he faces is Brian Williams, not the TV commentator. Brian Williams, I know it's a bad picture, but Brian Williams and Jimmy Jackson with the Rockers theme. They came out with the Rockers theme. These are indie guys. They could be NXT enhanced, I don't know. But Pretty Deadly pretty much handled them in a matter of seconds. They beat the Rockers 2023. And New Day comes out like, nah, we're not going to have that, man. You ain't going to get by with that. So New Day brings out Malik Blade and Idris Sanofi. They go for quite a few minutes. In the end, Pretty Deadly wins. And then we get Gallus. And Gallus, nice crowd pop. A little surprised. I mean, I haven't clicked with Gallus yet. I'm still not buying in with Gallus. I know how talented they are, but I don't know, something about them. It gives me it's like almost like Viking Raiders without any paint or outfits or something about Gallus to me that's missing. I don't know, but they end up beating Pretty Deadly. So Gallus will get a title shot against the New Day. I don't think Gallus is winning it. I think eventually it's going to go to the Schism. And again, we're far away from WrestleMania. So I think Gallus will get that opportunity with New Day. Gallus's music is awesome. They got great music. Something missing with them. But I keep open mind, give it some more time. And the opening match, I know we went backwards, but we go from the most important to the least important. Dijak beating Tony D'Angelo. I don't think that was a surprise. I like the last part because it kind of makes them come off more as a baby face now. You had Stax handcuffed to the rope, and Dijak is about to finish off Tony D'Angelo, if you want to call it that way. And Stax wants to take the bullet for Tony D'Angelo. He's like, boss, I'll take this. And Tony D'Angelo pretty much says something like, ain't your boss, I'm family. And then he eats the kick to the head and gets pinned. It looks like they're positioning Tony D'Angelo to be a little bit more of a fan favorite. And I'm fine with that. That one line, it doesn't make sense. It's all about family. Family is number one for me, especially. It should be for a lot of you as well. But as far as even with the mob, family is the most important thing. If you ever look up mob history, shout out to that guy Mooney Dashcam that's from my neck of the woods. He's always documented mob stuff here. You could break bread with members of the mob. They could fucking christen your kids. They could be at your weddings. They could be your best friends. They could be with you, on a trip. And they'll be the first ones to blow your brains out. Family is different, though. Family is your blood. And your blood, now, Stax is obviously not blood related. The storyline is not blood related, but Tony D'Angelo calls it family. Good stuff. Good stuff. So Jinder Mahal will stick around for a little while, and I really loved the pop that he got yesterday. I thought that was pretty cool. Nice surprise. Tiffany Stratton is back as we expected as well. And listen, when we start, I'm going to start preparing the year-end awards. We'll start doing it in about a week, 2 weeks tops. But I think as far as women, female Rookie of the Year, I think she definitely deserves some attention from some of you out there. What she did, you watch her from like 10 months ago to now, it's like night and day. It's kind of like mind-boggling how much she put together in such a short amount of time, especially when they really weren't touring much. So she definitely deserves, as far as female rookies, I think she definitely deserves a little bit of time. Roderick is asking me, what's Tony D's ceiling on the main roster? I don't know. I don't know if that character will succeed on the main roster. It's way too early to tell. Tony D is doing good. I think his progression is a little bit slower than some expected within WWE, but I think part of that is injury related as well. He was sidelined for a little while, but even before that, I think they expected him to be a little bit further. But on the flip side, when you got Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Grayson Waller, even Odyssey Jones, they think he's on the fast track to the main roster. You realize 4 guys, Cameron Grimes, we don't know what the fuck's going on with. But now I just brought up 5 guys that could end up going to the main roster. So there's no rush for Tony D to get pushed to that main roster right now. As I keep saying, you want someone to go to the main roster, that's fine. But what happens once they're there, especially on the women's side of things? When people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to see Alba Fire go to the main roster. Does anybody in their right mind think that Alba Fire is going to leapfrog like 10 women on that main roster? No. So what happens? You go to the main roster and you start losing. So going to the main roster is fine, but timing is what it's all about. Tony D right now, no rush to go to that main roster. I think he's going to be working a dark match, a main event match in the next couple of weeks. I think he's on schedule. I don't know if it's for the Brooklyn show, but I know he's scheduled for a main event coming up. And, performing in front of, 10,000 fans, give or take a few thousand, is a big deal. So we'll see. We will see. No rush. No rush, though. All right. What on the news we have to say? Stevie Turner. Big Stevie Turner. She's a women's wrestler from NXT UK. I have not seen a lot of her work, but she's pretty decent. She's going to be coming to this main roster. They're going to keep her on board for a little while until the next step. I'm very curious to see what NXT Europe, how that is affected by this possible, sale or, merger and acquisition. Will they still pursue NXT Europe? Tyler Bate was not around because of visa issues, but Tyler Bate is going to be returning. Then you say to yourself, what's going on with Ilya Dragunov? There's a lot of names. You don't realize how many names could be main roster bound, and then you got to find spots for them. So I'll be honest with you, I would not be surprised in the next month or two if we do see 10 or 20 releases in WWE. I really do, because they're not going to repeat 2018. 2017. Remember when WWE stock almost hit $100, or it might have hit $100, and they signed like 100 guys? And then COVID hit and everything else, and they had to get rid of a lot of people. So, all right. Crazy Cruiserweight with a prediction. He's got a prediction that is worth 5 times the value. What is this prediction? Crazy Cruiserweight says Don Tony will be doing a podcast this Saturday, January 14th. I can confirm this because it is a Wednesday and it's the middle of the week. Cruiserweight, I think you are correct. I think your sources are pretty accurate. I don't think you're giving anybody fake news. Whoever gave you those sources, tell them keep the sources coming, especially on a Wednesday. What's going on? That was a fun show yesterday on Patreon. Great questions. Great questions. But thank you for that. Yeah, I'll be doing one Saturday. Look, I don't think the focus is I don't think we're going to have to spend more than 10 minutes about Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon's situation is not as controversial as you think, but the Stephanie McMahon thing, I will say this, she loves her father, and family is number one. But when it comes to business, there is some issues there. I can't work with my dad. Well, when my dad used to run the deli, I couldn't work with my brother either. It's not as, and look, this is obviously a lot more complicated, but we'll talk about it on Saturday. So next week, we have Axiom and Apollo Crews teaming up to take on Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Believe it or not, I heard a little rumbling that WWE is considering of splitting Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes. I think that is a huge mistake. Trick Williams, I'm telling you, man, that is a sleeper hit. He is a sleeper hit. When people say to me, who's a guy that's not on anybody's radar that's going to make it? I think Trick Williams is that person in NXT right now. So hopefully they don't split those two guys up. Gallus will be taking on Jensen and Briggs next week. So right now for Vengeance Day, all we have advertised is the Grayson Waller-Braun Breaker match and Roxanne Perez defending the NXT Women's Championship against Toxic Attraction in a three-way. So you will see Gigi and JC fisticuffs going at it. Again, let's hope that Gigi Dolan is okay, because it seemed like nobody was talking about the leg yesterday. Hopefully it's a storyline. I'm not so sure. I think she might have actually tweaked it. You can tell when something seems a little bit more legit than it appears. Oh, yeah, Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams are money, man. They are great. By the way, yesterday NXT did 700,000 viewers, up from last week's, I believe, 566. I'm going to be honest with you. I think 700,000 is a disappointing number. I also think some of the match placement yesterday was not very good. I was very surprised that they had Hank Waller and Charlie Conway that late in the night. I think some viewers I'm very curious to see the quarter hours. Some tells me, look, none against William Regal's son. I am very, very high on that guy. But I think we might have seen a significant drop, and I don't think it recovered as much as we expect. 700,000 for NXT New Year's Evil, I actually think that's a disappointing number. So, okay. One Pump is asking, did Mercedes make her AEW debut? No. This was the thumbnail that I made last week. Bank closed. I stood by it. Look, if I would have been wrong, I would have been wrong. But no, she never was debuting. She could sign down the line. I think, as I said earlier, if WWE does sell, I think that emotional, commitment or, that loyalty goes out the door. If Comcast owns WWE or Disney or Saudi Arabia or whoever, if AEW owns it, then, you don't have to jump ship. But, no, if Comcast or Disney or NBC Universal or any of them, if they end up owning WWE outright and the McMahons are no longer involved in any power whatsoever, why would any wrestlers feel that they have to be loyal to WWE? It's WWE in name only. It's almost like if you think of Impact Wrestling, if you were loyal to Dixie Carter or loyal and then, a totally different company picks up and owns it, look at Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is probably a great example. If the original owners of Ring of Honor or Carrie Silkin and others are no longer there and you have a corporation owning it, why would you feel loyalty? I mean, it's a lot less there, and I think that increases the chances of some, including Mercedes, possibly going to AEW. But listen, if you want to have any arguments with anyone out there that's going to try to, listen, there are going to be people right now that are going to try to convince you that Mercedes was supposed to be there, but things fell through. All you have to do is just think about the New Japan deal. And I'll leave with this. The New Japan deal, they paid her 7 figures. Everything about the New Japan debut is to hype up her in-ring return post-WWE. In February, against Kyrie in San Jose, that event's already sold out. You're not going to have her make her wrestling return in February in New Japan, and then unannounced she's going to be a fill-in for surprise partner for Saraya on an AEW Dynamite. It's all about the aura, the anticipation. If she makes her debut on Dynamite, that feeling that I must see her against Kyrie, is much less. That's why New Japan inked the deal with her, because they want her to make her first return. You can't even hype that if she would have showed her. That's the reason why. I look at last week's show. I put main reason why Mercedes will not be on Dynamite. The New Japan deal is the reason. There's no controversy. There was no scheduling conflicts. There was no issues with Southwest Airlines. There was Mone problems at the last minute. No, she was never supposed to be there. People lied. People lied. And other people took advantage of those lies. Someone lies, oh my God, I could do a big podcast about it. Yeah, but that person's lying. Shh. We don't know that. We'll just talk, what if? What if she shows up? Oh, fantasy this, fantasy that. What if? Didn't some people also say Naomi could have appeared instead? What if? And then once it's revealed it's a lie, well, then we will bash the person that originally reported the story. It's clickbait, man. And this is the worst I've ever seen it. I'm doing this 26 years. This is the worst I've ever seen it. But, what's sad about it is people will just keep following those same people. So it is what it is. I keep doing my thing. They keep doing their thing. But I will say this, some of the real news journalists out there, their stocks definitely went up in the last 24 hours. If you really pay close attention, there were a lot of people that were very hush about it because they couldn't verify any of this stuff, and they just kept quiet. And, people will trust them that much more. So it is going to get worse. But, all right, I'm going to jet out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Definitely post some comments in the comment section. Yesterday, I uploaded the latest Q&A mailbag. Some of you were complaining that your questions were not on there. The cutoff was last week. I recorded over the weekend. I just put some finishing touches yesterday morning, but some people sent me questions the day that it was released. It was already recorded. So the next mailbag will be, drumroll please, January 26th, 2023. It will be released on that Thursday. That is a guarantee. So you can get a head start. You can send your questions in now, and we'll definitely get into it. If we get a lot of questions, then maybe I'll do it a week earlier. Doesn't have to be, I could surprise everyone with a mailbag unannounced. But, yeah, I'm out of here. So, everyone, I hope I cleared up a little bit more as far as what's going on. You take the information I gave you however you want to use it. But this Saturday when we do the Don Tony show, we will definitely get into the latest news. We'll see what happens with SmackDown. Remember, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. That was a match that we talked about 6 weeks ago, that Roman was going to put Sami in that match. So something is going to progress Friday with that storyline. And, we'll talk a little bit about Stephanie, and we'll get into a little bit more about what's going on with Vince. And, you're going to see, I'll leave you with this tonight, you're going to see reports flying around about a lawsuit against WWE for the way Vince McMahon pushed his power in his return. That WWE is being sued, stock related. If you want to get a head start on knowing the truth about that, Google the law firm. This law firm every few years files lawsuits against WWE, stock-related, and other entities out there. This law firm sued WWE a few years ago, and I think it was related to George Barrios and Michelle Wilson when they left WWE. So they are notorious suing WWE. So when you see this announcement today, it's not as huge as people are going to portray it to be. It's just, oh my God, they're being sued. What's it about? Google the law firm and look at the history of them suing WWE, and then you'll realize why this lawsuit was made. So, all right. Somebody in the chat right now named Mercedes Mone. Definitely not Mercedes. She ain't going to waste her time over here. I don't blame her. Be well, everyone. Much love. Have a great night. Post your comments, your feedback. I always read it. And I do comment, as much as I can. And we'll get into it again. So be well, everybody. Much love.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the hosts. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.